All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, take 15, I guess. Take 15 podcast, Mercy podcast, reaction podcast here. I'm Ernest Christian, of course. Mike Bernier as well with us. Joe's on assignment, really, paying bills, had to work, that kind of thing. Mike, what's up?
Yeah, he's on assignment at Orange Theory Fitness. If you want a membership, feel free to call Joe at Orange Theory
Joe, nice setup. A lot went down last night on Raw.
It did.
We have a new WWE champion, and actually, maybe we shouldn't be surprised because they actually kind of sort of told us this before the show even started. You saw Big E posted on there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to cash in. Da, da, da.
No, they definitely told you it was going to happen.
Yeah, they just told you, which was just kind of weird. But Big E is the new WWE champion. I don't know. I'm first of all, I love it. He's my favorite guy in the whole company, so I'm not gonna. But I will be honest, and I got into it with a couple of guys, some of our friends on Twitter about this. I was a little more. I don't know. It just felt like, okay, well, depends on the pop a rating here. It didn't feel like it felt sudden. Not that Big E didn't deserve it, and not that because at some point this was gonna happen, but this felt a little soon, in my opinion, anyway.
Let's see. He won the Money in the Bank contract on
July.
July. So
20?
we've gotten 5 months out of it.
Well, 2 months.
Don't.
Well, from July to now, you mean, right?
Oh, 2.5 months.
Yeah, but still, yeah, that's still some time.
Yeah, what I would say here, I think that my takeaway from the situation is that I don't think this was a ratings pop as much as it was, okay, let's reset something. Are we going to move Bobby potentially to SmackDown in the draft? We obviously can't have both world titles on the same show.
Right.
Let's take a look at it. The other thing that I said in the chat earlier between the three of us was, what if this is to cushion a potential injury to one Bob Lashley?
Is this speculation, or is it something you've been hearing on the?
I've heard that he was dinged up, and maybe that a small break would be beneficiary to the long-term story of one Bob Lashley. And if that's the case, then this makes the perfect sense because you're not going to have him take the title with him on a 5 or 6 week sabbatical.
Of course, right.
You do that with Brock Lesnar and Brock Lesnar only because you've done it 800 times with Brock Lesnar.
Of course.
So it's one of those things where if Bob is actually hurt, like, all right, give E a couple months with the belt. If he drops it at Royal Rumble to set up whatever, then that's where he drops it. You give him a run. You let him see what you have. I will say that I was the only person on this show that endorsed Big E from the very beginning of the draft last year when the New Day split. I was the one that said that Big E would be a main event guy and would win the title. And hey, guys, we're here.
I mean, we saw the clues last year. I mean, and in fact, they moved him away from the New Day, and yeah, I'm with you. You did endorse that, and we're here now. You also said something that was interesting too on the text about like Survivor Series, the possibility of maybe this being a big Survivor Series angle between the other guy, the head of the table, and his compadres against the New Day.
You mean Mr. Ting Tang Wall Bing Bang?
That guy.
Oh, okay.
With the bars, of Silver Steel, of course.
I mean, if this leads to the Bloodline versus the New Day in a small match, if we go Raw versus SmackDown, then I am all for. Anytime you got the Usos and the New Day together, it's good, and then you can add Roman Reigns to it. It's just as good. I mean, I'm not opposed to this in any way, shape, or form. I think that this match would be an explosive contest. I think this would be a match that will help draw fans to wherever Survivor Series is. I don't even fucking know offhand. I think it's Boston.
I think it is Boston. I think
it's at the Garden, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. Yeah, I think that this could be a big draw for them. We've talked on the Big Show a couple of times that WWE needed to do something to spark a change, to light a fire under something. And I think that this could be it. You have a guy who's been well-liked by every person in the backstage area. Right. You got every fan that loves the New Day. He's a guy, his act has always been the big, silly, goofy dance around guy for however long. He gets this push by himself. He becomes a little bit of a badass. Beats up like Sheamus on SmackDown, runs him off to Raw. Stuff like that. So I think that this is one of those things where it's like, I think he's a guy that I would love to see have a title run all the way to WrestleMania. Do I think we get that? No, I don't. I think I think he drops it at Royal Rumble to set up something else. Personally, I would love for E to be in the main event or in a main event caliber match at WrestleMania. I just hope that it does not come at the necessary of like, hey, it's got to be against Kofi or Woods.
Right. That makes sense.
Like I would sacrifice E being in the main event at WrestleMania just to not have the New Day forcefully broken up to be the match.
Right.
Like, I've seen rumors, it's, okay, well, E's dream match is Goldberg. So you send E to Saudi Arabia, him versus Goldberg. Goldberg wins the belt. Bobby gets the rematch against Goldberg that we don't want to see, and Bobby wins the belt back. And if that's what they're doing,
yeah.
Like, GFY WWE.
Fair. Is he a transitional champion? Now, I had the same fears about Bobby Lashley back in March when he beat The Miz, and to WWE's credit, they gave him the belt and he sustained it through WrestleMania, through SummerSlam, you name it, and so he had a good run. So maybe I have a little more faith about in creative to do the same thing with Big E.
The only thing that this also could open up the doors to, and if that's another route they go, I'm not opposed to it. This gets Drew McIntyre back in the title picture.
Yes.
Because of the whole he can't challenge Bob anymore. Bob's out. He's in. It gets Drew the opportunity to then fight for the title again. And I think Drew and Bob or Drew and E could have some good matches.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not opposed to that in any way, shape, or form. I hope he doesn't drop the belt right away to Drew. I hope this is something where E keeps the belt for a little while. And I think that's something that I think is hopefully that the route they go. Like you said, we've put our money behind their booking before and they've screwed us, but they've done some things right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in this one with kind of glass half full perspective. But yeah, I think that this is one of those things where when you come out of this, the big thing here, and no pun intended because it's Big E, WWE is getting behind guys that are well liked by everyone.
Yeah.
Fans and backstage people, all the same. They're getting behind good, not just characters, but good human beings. And I think that's something that you kind of go, okay, all right, we're not worried about the stroking the egos of people anymore. It's more, let's let this guy get it. Let's see if we can do something. Let's see if we can build a mega star. We talked about their lack of star power the last couple of weeks on the show. Here's your chance to build a guy. And he wasn't a guy that wrestled in Ring of Honor or New Japan or something like that. This is one of your guys.
He's still in his prime. He's 10 years in. He's still in his prime.
Yeah, and he's a guy that they built. It's one of those. Oh, who can they lay claim to that they built? Roman Reigns. Well, now you can lay claim that they built Big E.
Mm-hmm. Now let's think out about real quick though. You've seen AEW last few weeks. That's a month really what they've been doing. CM Punk, Adam, Ruby Soho, you name it. Daniel Bryanson. Bryan Danielson, I say. Sorry, I didn't get used to that.
Daniel Bryanson.
Is it possible that what happened last night was a reaction to what AEW has been doing? And don't forget too, AEW last week. I mean, for people, this may not matter, but AEW beat Raw in the most important demo, 18-49.
I don't think this has anything to do with anything except for them wanting to try something new.
Okay.
And wanting to potentially get the belt now to E because we're 2 weeks away from the draft.
That's right.
That's why I think that this is either Bobby is dinged up and like a couple weeks off before the draft, or Bobby's changing to SmackDown at the draft, which will eventually lead to a Bobby Lashley Roman Reigns match at Royal Rumble. Yeah,
I can see that. We'll see how the draft goes, who goes where. I mean, obviously how we book him going forward. I know Joe mentioned in the text that we're gonna talk more about this in detail for his topic. He already said that Big E will be his focus for this week's show.
He's told me a little bit about his topic. It is E and New Day eccentric.
Right. Okay.
So we'll deep dive more into E and what's coming with him and what's coming up with even Bobby and how we get the next couple months as we get towards Royal Rumble and then WrestleMania season.
All right, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. Some other news also too. Samoa Joe had to relinquish his NXT title. I think it was Sunday. It was announced. Tonight on NXT, which is actually a big night because it's the start of the NXT 2.0 apparently. Right? 2.0.
I don't know that we can call them 2.0 from a legal standpoint. There's a tag team in the other company called 2.0.
That's true.
I don't think we can do that from a legal perspective.
This is an injury, right? An injury thing with him?
They say it is. I haven't heard anything contrary to that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if his injury is that he's over 30 and, is going to end up on Raw or SmackDown in the next couple of weeks in the draft.
Ooh, shake up.
It's one of those where I nothing would put it nothing WWE does surprises me. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're over 30. We got the belt off the Karrion Kross. We decided to rebrand this after that, and now
he's over 40 actually.
Yeah, but the rumor being that it's anyone over 30 is they don't want NXT. Obviously, doesn't fit that mold.
Right.
He is over 30. So they got the belt off of Karrion Kross, which they wanted. They used Joe to do it, and rather than having Joe look bad as he goes over to one of the main rosters, and then you leave him off the TV for a couple weeks, and then hey, he shows up on Raw.
Yep.
I mean, if that's the route they're going, then fine, I get it. But it's like I'd rather him put somebody over on the way out if he actually isn't hurt.
Right.
That's why. Well, maybe he is hurt.
Yeah, that's very true. Speaking of which, tonight will be a fatal 4-way for the title. Do we know who the 4 guys are?
It is LA Knight, Pete Dunne, Cool Kyle, and I don't know who the 4th one is off the top of my head. Hold on, I'll look.
Not Gargano,
huh? It might actually be Johnny. No, Johnny's probably involved in that Dexter Lumis Indy Hartwell wedding.
I'm not gonna lie. I've been kind of in and out of NXT the last couple of weeks since the last takeover. But tonight's a big night. It's a shakeup of the brand. Who would you like to see win the title tonight?
I told Joe this, and it's how I feel. If Pete Dunne or LA Knight walk out with the title, I think I'm happy either way. The 4th member is actually Tommaso Ciampa.
Oh, okay. Tried and true.
Yeah. So I want Pete Dunne to walk out with the belt. I would be ecstatic if he did. If it's not him, I could live with LA Knight. I think his character and his gimmick work really well for NXT. And if he's one of those veterans that we've talked about that's going to stay down there, even though he's a little bit older, to help be a building block of NXT as we get through the developmental and the redevelopmental phases, like I'm okay with him winning the title and kind of being the guy that everyone's chasing. He has a great gimmick. He's really good on the mic. Cut some really good promos. So I wouldn't be opposed to an LA Knight win. But I do think that Pete Dunne walks out with the title tonight. And I think he walks out with help from his compadre Ridge Holland after they turned on Oni and Danny. If he don't win, I could see it being Oni and Danny's fault, setting up a Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland versus Oni and Danny feud, which could be somewhat entertaining because those 4 guys like to beat the shit out of each other. Yeah. So it's one of those where personally, I mean, at this point, I think any of the 4 of them, all 4 of them have different things they bring to the table. Ciampa being a former champion, again, one of those guys that could be that older guy that stays down there that helps build everything. I could be behind that. I could be behind O'Reilly, but I just coming off the Adam Cole feud that ended so flat.
Yeah.
That match, I just don't know that I'm ready for. Like, I love Kyle O'Reilly. I'm one of the biggest Kyle O'Reilly supporters in the world. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know that I'm all in on Kyle O'Reilly right now, and maybe it's not a knock on Kyle. It's just after watching him in a big match like that, and I don't think it's either one of their faults. The whole final booking in the steel cage match was just confusing as it was, and the finish was just kind of out of nowhere. It's just I think that Kyle needs something that isn't as serious as a world title run right now. I think he needs to kind of not downshift, but he needs to kind of take a breather and not be involved in like the main focus of everything for a couple weeks. So again, an LA Knight win, and then maybe Kyle faces him at the next takeover or something and beats him, or like I could get behind that. I think we need to move on to one of the other three guys and give them the ball and let them run with it a little bit in the main storyline perspective from NXT.
Wins the title? Would be his first title?
Who?
Pete Dunne would be his first reign, or
it would be his first with the NXT title. He was the UK champion for however many days before Walter beat him.
Right. And of course that big ass reign that Walter had recently.
I mean, honestly, the only person that would win the title again if they won the NXT title would be Ciampa.
That's a safe bet. To be safe, of course.
Ciampa's definitely the safer of the four because you know what you're getting from him.
Right.
Pete Dunne's probably the best in-ring guy out of them. LA Knight's probably the best character out of the four of them, and Kyle O'Reilly is kind of a mixture of all four of them. He's got a good character. He can cut a decent promo. He's really good in ring. So it's like you have to decide: do you want a little bit of everything? Do you want to lean more on the gimmick? Do you want to lean more on the in-ring wrestling? Do you want to just lead on Tommaso Ciampa being just a fucking psychopath? I mean, you have your choices here. I hope that Pete walks out with the belt. I hope this is where the direction they're going because I think Pete's a guy who could be the foundation of NXT for a long time.
Right. And finally, according to FightfulSelect.com, Fightful.com rather, Johnny Gargano's contract with WWE is reportedly expiring on December 3rd. Now, you and Joe were talking last night, and I actually agree with you guys. You don't see him leaving.
No.
I don't. I think him and Ciampa honestly are lifers at this point.
I would probably agree with that situation 100%, especially from Ciampa's perspective. They stuck behind him with the neck injury. They gave him all the time in the world that he needed. They took care of him. I think Ciampa's definitely a lifer, and I'm the same. I feel the same way with Johnny. Johnny was a guy wrestling for Evolved and Chikara and stuff like that, and WWE took a chance on him, and he was really one of those indie darlings that WWE has actually found a way to make him better than what he was when he was on the indie scene. And he was a pretty damn good wrestler on the indie scene, and his heel turn in Evolve was pretty damn good, and it's only been better, his heel turns in NXT.
Right.
So I think that Johnny stays because I also feel that Johnny's a guy, not just from a WWE perspective, he was never really like BFFs with those guys. He didn't wrestle a lot in PWG. He didn't do a bunch of stuff with the Young Bucks. He never went over to Japan. He never did any stuff like that. I feel like a lot of those guys that are going from WWE or being rumored to go from WWE were part of like the PWG heyday, the Genericos, aka Sami Zayn, the Steens, aka Kevin Owens, Malachi Black whenever he came over. Brian really wasn't part of the Bucks like foundation years of PWG, but he was before he got signed in right. PWG. So it's like they all have like that go back connection to PWG with the exception of Punk. And now supposedly the potential rumored of one John Gargano. But no, I don't think either one of him or Ciampa are going anywhere. I think they're lifers. Johnny's also got a pregnant wife at home.
That's right.
Who's signed to WWE. And honestly, her contract's probably frozen because she is pregnant. I know that's what they used to do when people got hurt or got pregnant, is that their contracts freeze.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I don't think Johnny's going anywhere. And to be really honest with you, I love Johnny. I think Johnny gets lost in the shuffle in AEW.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of guys already playing that role that Johnny would come in and play. I love his character. I love his in-ring work. I don't know that AEW would be able to pull the trigger that WWE has with Johnny. I feel like Johnny would come in, he'd have a good first couple weeks, and then he'd end up like Matt Sydal, where he'd end up in a tag team, or he'd end up being the guy that like loses to really good in-ring wrestlers. Like Matt Sydal's last like singles match on AEW Dynamite was the loss to Andrade that we saw in Miami.
Right.
So it's like at the end of the day, like I don't want that to be Johnny Gargano because I know Johnny Gargano can do so much more than that. So it's like I'd rather Johnny stay somewhere where he's desired and not oh cool, look, we got a new toy.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So okay, hypothetically, let's say he does say I want to leave WWE. Let's say, I mean, we don't. You
Mhm.
think, but if he does leave, where would be a good fit for him? What promotion?
Either Ring of Honor or MLW.
Right.
MLW's got a really good in-ring style. They're actually bringing in Bobby Fish. They announced that earlier this week.
So that.
So like they're going from an in-ring perspective. I think Johnny could go with a bunch of those guys in MLW. And Ring of Honor obviously has the best, probably pure wrestling in the business right now. So I think he could be a fit in either one of those companies. But I don't see him being a guy that's going and wearing black and gold of AEW anytime soon. Maybe that's the reason why they changed their color scheme.
May make sense.
I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, I hate this stupid fucking color scheme. I hate this logo. I hate this." I'm like, I actually think it's actually pretty cool. It's different. It's not.
You see tonight when I watch tonight, I mean, see how it looks with the presentation of the ring and the whole nine. And
all I'll say is that it's just when you look at wrestling companies, it's always that like cheap bold block lettering with like one solid color with white outlines. And then it was like NXT's like black and gold. So you're like, okay, well, they don't have white, but they have the fucking black. They always have to have the black or white base color. And then it's like they throw something on top of it. Like the fact that they're doing something like bioluminescent and kind of like Art Deco feel, like I kind of like that. And it's something that especially in the Orlando area, I think it fits like the stuff they do there. You know, I know a lot of like the Art Deco museums and the flashy colors and stuff like that, and obviously Full Sail's there, and it's just I like that they're doing something maybe more to like thank the city that they're in more than just like, hey, let me just put like two generic ass colors together and just slam it on your TV screen.
Well, you know, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the initial, you know, rollout, but you know what, I want to judge the whole packaging when I see it tonight and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. A lot of people are just again, it's shit on Vince to shit on Vince, and I think the problem here is that if this comes out and the whole thing meshes well together and it makes sense, then like people should eat crow on it, but they're not going to admit that they were wrong.
No, of course not. Because why would? Come on, it's Twitter.
Exactly. Fucking idiots.
Anyway, follow Mike on Twitter, of course, at They Call Me Burn. It's BERN. Of course, our colleague Joe Lopez at Sugar J Lo on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, EachPerson7. I guess we'll talk again on the big show. Unless something else happens, because there's so much wrestling shit going on now. I'm trying to keep up, and you know, but the Big E thing we had to get in and discuss that. That's too big a story to wait 4 days for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the what was the one that we needed to get in. I don't think anything else is really scheduled unless something big happens tonight with the Fatal 4-Way for the title.
Right.
If something big happens, maybe me and Joe can jump on tomorrow if you're not available, but we'll figure that out after the show. Watch NXT tonight, but watch it with open eyes. Don't sit here and just automatically ready to shit on it.
Judge until you see it all. You know what I mean?
Not you, yeah, for sure. Because there will be people that have already judged that this show sucks, and it's like 12 hours from happening. So,
but of course, social media. Come on now.
Gotta love it.
All right, Ben. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Sounds good. Later.